Okay, now we want to talk about the ice ages. So first, how far down did the ice go? And so for purposes of the exam, remember that the ice extended as far south as the Missouri River in the state of Missouri. So that would have meant that states such as Minnesota and Michigan could have been covered by ice up to a depth of 1 mile. So how do we know that the ice ages occurred? Well, for one thing, we look for old glacial features. So if you go to the mountains of the Rocky Mountains over here in the United States, you're going to find valleys that are U-shaped. And so that's because a glacier had moved through and turned the V-shaped valley into a U-shaped valley. Okay, also be on the lookout for debris that was pushed in front of the glacier. So look for moraines. So this picture here shows the topography of the United States. And what you can do is if you click on the picture, you can make the picture bigger. And if you make the picture bigger, look for this region right here, and you'll notice it's kind of like a bowl. And so that is a bowl-shaped feature because as the ice sheet moved further south, it carved that feature. Also be on the lookout for mounds of material in this part of the United States, and those are glacial moraines that were left behind by the glacier. Okay, another line of evidence has to do with isotopes. So an isotope is going to be a particular element that has a different number of neutrons in its nucleus. And so some elements in their nucleus have more neutrons, which means it's a heavier isotope. And so if you've got in the ocean water different kinds of isotopes, okay, and then an ice age occurs that pulls water out of the oceans, then that's going to leave behind heavier isotopes. And so those heavier isotopes can be incorporated into the shells of organisms, and then when they die, they leave behind fossils. And so when we look at the fossils, we can determine what was the temperature of the ocean when that organism was living. So when did the ice ages occur? The top graph shows you that ice ages have occurred all throughout Earth's history. So there have been ice ages billions of years ago. But you'll notice that there have been ice ages just relatively recently, within the last 1.6 million years of Earth's history. That's the current length of time of the current ice ages that we've been having. Then, if you look at the bottom chart, that shows roughly what the temperature of the Earth has been like over the past 500,000 years or so. And you can see that at certain times, the temperature, the overall temperature of the Earth has been very high, and at other times it's been very low. And during those low temperatures is when the ice ages have been occurring. And if you look at the graph, you notice that currently the temperature is relatively above normal, so that we're in a interglacial period right now. So in the future, the glaciers and the ice ages are going to come back, but right now we're in between ice ages. So what was the climate like during the ice ages? So currently the tundra is up in Canada, but during the ice ages, tundra would have extended as far south as 48 degrees latitude. Okay, another thing is the kinds of trees that existed during the ice ages were mostly going to be conifers. And so currently today we have deciduous trees, trees that give off their leaves during the fall, but during the ice ages, the dominant type of tree would have been pine trees. Okay, another thing is that in the United States there would have been an increase in the amount of rainfall. And so that's what formed those lakes. The Great Salt Lake, for example, used to be much, much bigger during the ice ages. And the water that made that lake came during the ice ages. But rainfall decreased in the tropics. So here is some examples of animals that would have lived during the ice ages, and so the most common one that comes to mind would be the woolly mammoth, for example. So what caused the ice ages? Okay, it's a number of things. So here is some things that could have caused the ice ages. So number one is the position of the continents. So when the continents are spread apart, then it's very easy for ocean water to circulate around. That keeps the climate moderate. When the continents are all put together, then that disrupts ocean currents and it could trigger an ice age. Carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. The more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the warmer the climate is going to be. The less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the colder the climate is going to be, and that could trigger an ice age. So where does carbon dioxide come from? Volcanoes, animals, and cars and power plants. Okay, where does the carbon dioxide go? It could be absorbed by plants, and it also could be absorbed by the oceans and be turned into limestone. Okay, the next thing is global deep ocean currents. And so that could be, if that is interrupted, that could trigger an ice age. Another thing is Earth's albedo. So that ice acts like a mirror. So that sunlight, when it comes down, if you have ice, that's going to reflect it back into outer space. On the other hand, if you've got water, water is a good absorber of heat and that energy. Okay, then the sun periodically changes the amount of energy it gives off. The tilt of the Earth changes. So currently the tilt of the Earth is at 23 degrees, but over millions of years it can be greater and it can be less. So when it is less, the climate is going to be more moderate. If the tilt is more, then the climate is going to be more severe. More severe summers, more severe winters. Another thing that can change is the eccentricity of the orbit of the Earth. So currently, the orbit of the Earth around the sun is more of a circle. But over time, that orbit can become more elliptical. So now that we know about the ice ages and what could cause them, can we predict when the next ice age is going to occur? And we've tried to do this by combining information from all of these other causes for the ice age. And so do you remember when we talked about the oceans and we said that you could have an ocean wave that looks like this, that's generated by a storm off the coast of Australia, and then you've got another ocean wave that maybe it looks like this, and it is generated by a storm off the coast of Alaska. And then when those two waves come together, they superimpose. And so, like, for example, here the wave is going up, but here the wave is coming down. So that when you put those two together, you might get an extra small wave over here. But on the other hand, if a wave is one of these waves is going up and the other wave is going up, then you get an extra tall wave when they come together. So each of these different causes for the Ice Age has a different cycle. But when you put all of those cycles together, you could end up with a picture that looks like this, where you get an extra tall wave and an extra low wave. So where it's extra low, that's when the Ice Age is going to occur. And so this picture here shows, when you add together all of these different cycles, it shows what the overall cycle would look like. The first one shows what the overall cycle would look like if there's 280 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The second graph shows what would the cycles look like if there was 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And then the third one shows what would it look like if there was 450 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So the first one says that the next ice age is going to occur in 50,000 years. So 50,000 years into the future is when the next ice age is going to occur. On the other hand, if there's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, then the next ice age is going to occur 100,000 years into the future, because the climate would be overall warmer. And then the third picture shows that the next ice age would be more like 170,000 years into the future is when the next ice age is going to occur. Okay, so that concludes our discussion of the ice ages. So we still have more things that we need to review for the Unit 4 lecture exam, and so I'll see you in just a moment.